Tiara, is the kickoff still happening? I think I just heard Brittany in the background. Okay, cool. So we'll wait. I guess we can hold off a few minutes because kickoff is still happening. So once folks leave that session, they'll probably hop over to the breakouts. Kickoff just wrapped up. I think people are still hopping over. Thanks, Tiara, for that, for letting me know. Okay, so we are right at time. Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to Tap Into Technology. I am so excited to be here. When Brittany told me about the concept for this weekend, I was so excited to just hear the empowerment, the message of helping women understand different opportunities in all fields, but my field of technology. So I look forward to teaching you guys a little bit about my journey, what I've done, what I've gone through, what I'm doing now, and then introduce some other roles in technology that you can also pursue. This is just what I know. So I've worked in technology for about 7 or 8 years now, but there's so much more that's out there. So I would encourage you to use this as a starting point and then, go from here with your research. So let's go to the next slide. So in today's talk, we'll be talking about, I'll tell you about my journey. So again, who am I and what I've done so far in technology. I'll introduce a few opportunities in technology. So I've kind of broken these out into different subcategories, if you will, and then I'll talk a little bit about each. I'll also introduce how to get started in technology, which is fairly simple, but I'll talk you through some of the helpful tips that helped me. And then some resources and question and answer. Also, just feel free to drop questions in the chat. So I have the chat open. If you guys want to ask questions throughout, I'll try to answer those throughout as well. And then Tiara is going to be helping me look for questions if I miss anything. So be sure to just drop them there. Or if you feel comfortable, you're welcome to come off of mute and come on video, and I answer questions there as well. All right, next slide. So before we jump in, I want to get to know you guys. I know it's a smaller group today, but that's okay. I definitely love intimate groups as well. So in the chat, type where you're located right now. What's your favorite part about the conference so far, if you attended multiple sessions? And then what's your favorite technology or app? What's something that you use a lot? So I'll give you guys a minute, just like type something that, either one of these questions, any of these questions, or other things that you want to introduce yourself. All right, Aisha. Hi, Aisha in DC. Anyone else? All right, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. I'll keep an eye out to see where you guys are located. Let's go to the next slide. So just before we jump in, I'll introduce myself quickly. My name is Amber Kearney. I'm a digital product manager at Capital One. That's located, our headquarters is in McLean, but I actually live in Richmond, Virginia. I moved to Richmond last year for Capital One and have loved it so far. I'm a former technology consultant. So essentially what that means is helping, from my state, it was actually helping government entities and government agencies with technology problems. But there's technology problems in all industries. So definitely not limited there. I, aside from my day job, I'm also, and kind of throughout my day job, I'm an advocate for women and minorities in technology. So what that means for me is opening doors, helping recruit, retain, and advance women in technology and minorities in technology as well. And then the fun fact, former had dreams of being an entertainment attorney, but that's something that I quickly gave up on after I realized I do not like law classes. And then I also thought about doing a career in advertising as account executive. But again, I fell in love with technology and I have not looked back since. And then also, just lastly, I'm a holistic wellness enthusiast. What that means for me is that I love fitness and all forms of wellness, whether it's taking care of your body, your skin, your mind. All those things are really important to being successful. So definitely an important part about myself that I have also outside of technology as well. Now I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. So the next slide. So in terms of technology, it was something that I had not really been introduced to early on. So when I got my MBA at Hampton, I had no idea what field I wanted to go into in terms of, business. I kind of leaned heavier a little bit toward the creative side. But when I worked in technology, thank you. I actually learned a lot about it and really love to learn to love it a lot. So when I started in consulting, I was working in the government public services industry, and working on systems integration, and something that was very mundane, very tedious, not as creative as I wanted to be. And so that's when in 2015, I did Deloitte's Technology Fellowship Program. And it was a great opportunity for me to learn. And I'll talk a little bit about that thread of learning throughout this talk. That's something that I started out in technology learning, and I always do that now. So any opportunity that I have to learn, pick up a new skill, that's very important to me. In 2015, 2019, I actually transitioned into product management, which is what I'm doing now. So moved less from the consulting space into like a more product role, which is actually building and developing products. I did that for some time at Deloitte. And then I recently, like I said, last year, moved to Capital One, where I'm still a product manager, now moving into a more product lead role. And I'm also, along the way, I've gotten certified in Scrum and certified in user experience design, as well as in a cloud practitioner for AWS. So again, that thread of learning is something that I'll talk about as well. But for me, it's been a up and down kind of journey in technology. It's been learning, it's been trial and error, it's been being told no and jumping back. But the important part is that I'm always eager to grow and do more. Let's go to the next slide. So the whole point of this talk is to talk about opportunities in technology, right? Tapping into tech. So I'm going to talk about three kind of subcategories, if you will, within technology, and break down some different roles within these subcategories. And hopefully one of these maybe resonates with you or what you enjoy doing. And you can then take that passion or that interest and see if there's another role or an opportunity that you can actually start applying for or leaning into more. So the first category is the consultant or the delivery support role. And what I mean by this is someone who's not necessarily building or creating the product or the digital technology themselves, but they're supporting the creation of it, the efficiency, the project management aspect of it, the delivery, and making sure that it's done well and to specification. So these are really important roles because you are doing the research, or you're getting ahead of the emerging technologies for the sake of someone who will build it, but you're not necessarily a person who's actually, what we use in technology, the term hands-on keys. You're not the one who's actually hands-on keys building it. Which brings us to the second role or category, which is the builder. So this is your classic engineer. This is the people who they're learning the coding languages, they're actually building the products. They're the ones who are doing the delivery, the testing. They're making sure that all their code is on GitHub or whatever repository you use, and they're getting that we call it peer reviewed or PR'd to make sure that it's actually correct. So these are the people who are the makers and the builders, and they like tinkering with things. They like making things and seeing their code actually turn into something that works. So if that is you, that's definitely a great field to go into. And I definitely recommend learning those coding languages early. And then lastly, I'm considering it like a research or influencer role. And so these are roles, again, that are less about the delivery, they're less about the actual building, but they're more about the concept of the technology. So For example, we'll talk about this a little bit in the next slide, the next couple slides, but a product manager, for example, this role is not one that I'm actually building anything on a day-to-day basis, but I'm always talking about the art of the possible for the product, the opportunities, the vision, where it's going, and helping to bring people along with me in that influencing role. So all three of these categories are very, very important in technology, ones that you will always see no matter where you go in companies. They may be called something different, and we'll talk about some of the actual roles themselves. But for the most part, you will have opportunities to work with these roles when you're in technology, learn from these roles when you're in technology. It's very important to just make sure that you're keeping it your passion first, and the whole, passion to purpose. Like we talk about this with this conference. If it's your passion, you'll do it well. You'll enjoy it. You'll lean into it. You'll want to learn more. So once you find that within technology, there's so many opportunities that you can keep going into. So let's talk about the first category here a little bit more in depth. The next slide. So the consultant and delivery support, and these are a few actual roles that you can look into. The first being a technology consultant, and this is actually, again, where I started my career. So the great thing about technology consulting is that you can get a wide variety of opportunities within one job. So for me, I worked at Deloitte, which is a Big Four consulting firm. I was a technology consultant, and I worked on several different projects and worked on different technologies, learned a totally different types of technology, types of code stacks, and all those great things. Just from the sake of being in that environment. I think it's really, really good, especially if you are someone who is younger or kind of, just breaking into your career, trying to figure out, what do you actually want to do? Because this is a place in consulting where you can literally be on one project and doing project management one day, and the next day or the next project you hop on could be doing more product delivery based. So it's a great opportunity, again, to learn. Also, the piece of consulting that I really love is that you're influencing and informing the future. So these companies hire consulting firms and agencies for that matter, can hire consulting firms to help push them to the next level or help them solve a problem that they have no idea how to solve. And so it's really, you're on the cutting edge, you're on the emerging, you're on the cusp of that emerging technology, which is a great place to be. And I personally love technology consulting. The only reason I left is my specific role. I hit a kind of a ceiling. So it's important that you always also recognize your growth pattern or your growth field or path whenever you're in these fields, and understand where you can go next. The second is Agilist. And so I'm kind of grouping these all together because there's so many roles within Agile. If you're not familiar with Agile framework, it is basically a way to deliver, a methodology to deliver work. So the analogy I always use is when you're building or when you're planting a garden. If you were planting a garden and using waterfall methodology, for example, you would wait until, like, you're planting, let's say, tomatoes and peppers and onions. You would do all your planting for tomatoes, wait till it sprouts, and then you're done. And then everything for your peppers, and then everything for your onions. And then at the end, you have three full, you have a full garden with three full vegetables. Whereas in Agile, if you're doing the same type of garden, you're going to do the seeds for your tomatoes, you're going to do the seeds for your peppers, and then your seeds for your onions, and then come back and do the soil, and then come back and water it, and then you see all of them grow in an iterative fashion. So that's just I love that analogy because it kind of puts it in layman's terms. And so Agile, with that same framework, you have to have people who are helping you along the way for each of those milestones, those phases. And what those little milestones are called is sprints. So that's one part of Agile where in Scrum, or Scrum is the methodology within the Agile. The other is called Kanban. But then Scrum, because you need more people to help you, a Scrum Master is a role that is great for someone who is maybe a former project manager, someone who has really great skills with, getting delivery work or delivering work, staying on task, staying on target for, moving tasks along to the next phase, or closing out tasks for that matter. That person's going to be helpful with the team, with the technology team, with the engineers to build that and create that along the way. So at Capital One, we call them Agile Delivery Leads or ADLs. They've been called Scrum Masters in industry. Just whatever the term is called. It's a great kind of tech adjacent role. Like, you're still within technology, but you're not actually building. So this whole category with consultant and delivery support very, very, very important. We always will have consultants. We always will have agile delivery or agilists to help us, get things done and move more efficiently. And the great thing about it too is that I think with both of these roles, you may not have to have very deep knowledge, but you will have to have a somewhat foundational understanding. So at the end, I'll talk a little bit about when you're transitioning into these roles. But for now, just keep this in mind as an opportunity. Just a reminder, if you have questions, type them in the chat. I know people have probably come and gone from the session, but I will be looking at the chat as well if you have any questions as we go. So next slide. So looking at the next one, which I'm calling the builders and the makers. So again, these are the hard, kind of very tedious roles, but they're so, so important. I mean, that's literally the way that we're communicating today on this virtual software. Someone behind the scenes coded this, tested this, and launched this, and that's why we're here today. And that's with everything that you use, your phone, your apps, everything. Like, your voice technology. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want her to come on, but your voice technology in your home. It's so important to understand that people are actually behind this, making this. So this is what these roles are. So the software engineers are your coders, the people who are actually developing, as I mentioned. This photograph, it's just so funny. I saw this photograph and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. She actually has code on her screen. So typically what you'll see as an engineer, they have these black screens with, white or some color text, and they work and they build and they create the code that's actually going to be actually launching or turning into actual product. Again, this role is something that's so vast, so ever changing. It's changing every single day almost. And the things that you can learn and the ways that you can implement technology are all based on engineers. So really, really lucrative role, really rewarding role to be in, because you're actually, again, you're learning about something and you're delivering it and you're seeing that in the world. I think it's so powerful to even think about like people who develop apps such as, Instagram or even Twitter or whatever your favorite app is. It's so important to understand people are building that and they get to see it every day and they get to hear the feedback. And so I'm always mindful that when I give feedback to companies or feedback to technologists or technology products, like someone actually spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. So let me try to be as resourceful as I can with my feedback. So I think it's important too, if you think about this role, you'll get lots of feedback, and how to manage that is important too. Systems engineer is very similar. It is actually a role that's kind of more built on the platforms that support those engineers, the software engineers. So for example, software engineers use different tools. We use things like such as the cloud for storage. There's all types of enablers that actually help our software engineers and people who are building actually get their jobs done well. And so our systems engineers are those who actually supporting those. So those are going to be the poor people who are building the servers and actually supporting the teams with their different, Active Directories and things like that. So very, very important role as well there. And then lastly is architects. And I want to say by no means is this the full list of roles that you can do within the builders and makers category. But this is just a start. So I again encourage everyone to do the research, continue to look outside of these roles and understand what actually sparks your interest. But for architects, this is a really, really interesting role for me. I started working with architects more often in my current role since I work on a platform now. And they are the folks who are thinking about how to frame or how to build the back end of products, or like the actual connecting pieces that makes products work. And that's kind of a very layman's terms, but in a sense, they're the ones who are architecting the blueprint for not just one product, but how that product will work with other products and how it'll, line up and it kind of work well, or either overlap with other products too. So architects are very detail oriented. They're thinking through the problems. They're trying to figure out how can we build for efficiency. And the other thing that I wanted to call out here was sustainability. They're not thinking about, okay, we do things in silos, or we do things in a small pocket. We're thinking about how will this feature or this product impact something 5 years from now, or the vision that we're trying to create. So really, they're really architecting the future and architecting the way that we build and kind of enable products as well. So that is our builders and makers category. Let's go to the last category. All right. And so the last category, again, is that influencers and researchers. So I personally love this, near and dear to my heart, because I am I fall into this category within technology. I'll start with product management because that's what I do. So product managers are the team members who are leading the vision and the objectives for the technology that's being built. So I'll give an example for myself. As a product manager, I am coming in, working with the engineers, working with the architects, working with the designers, all the stakeholders, the people, the leadership team, and understanding what are the different, what are the different needs from the business, what are the different needs from the technology standpoint, and then most importantly, what are the different needs from the user. And I'm kind of looking at those across, a different landscape and trying to make sure I'm pulling together everything to build requirement to the team. So the team's going to be looking to me to say, Amber, what's our vision? What are we building? Why are we building it? And what's the prioritization? How do we prioritize all these different things, all these different requests that we get? So a product manager, again, it's very, very important to know and understand what you're building. A lot of times you'll see product managers be former to engineers, people who actually used to do the building, and now they want to get more into the problem solving or more kind of holistic view of the product versus just heads down into the actual delivery of it. But product managers have no set background. There's no requirement that you have to have a certain degree to be a product manager. I came from a business background, so I had no prior technology experience in terms of actually building and learning. But going back to my roadmap of my life, or my career rather, that technology fellowship program, the program that actually taught me more about product, more about technology, that's what kind of launched me into this field. So again, the education piece is something that I always stress, whether it's General Assembly or any kind of like after hours school, online programs, Coursera, Udemy. There's so many that you can take that will teach you the necessary tools to be in this field. The next one is data scientist. And so this is a really, really cool kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. It's a very interesting way to look at data. And I know that this is a sensitive topic in the industry because everybody's like, well, I don't want my data out there. What are these companies doing with my data? Why do they need everything? But it's so important to understand that people are making decisions based off of that. So if we notice that, through the data, things are changing or shifting or people are gravitating towards some tool, some product, some problem that they're trying to solve, technology can solve that sometimes. It's a data scientist are those who are actually looking into the data. They're kind of studying the habits and they're crowdsourcing different information and making informed decisions about data. So really, really important, especially myself as a product manager, I'm going to be asking my data scientist, hey, like, what are some things we can draw? What are some conclusions we can draw on as a result of this data? And so it's really important to have it at our exposure and leverage it every chance we get. Tiara, can you let me know how we are in time? I don't want to keep talking if we should be wrapping up fairly soon. Just drop in the chat if you wouldn't mind, like the end time for this session, and then we'll be good to go. So the last section, or last role in this section, is designers and researchers. This is near and dear to my heart as well, because when I was first kind of breaking into technology, I noticed a trend. Thank you, Tiara. I noticed a trend that we needed to do the research first. So, well, actually, I noticed two trends. There was a trend that research was the grounding foundation of everything, and the other trend was that a lot of people had this myth in their mind that you had to have been an engineer to do this job, or do this job well, or do any job well within technology. And so I think I call it a myth because I am a prime example. Like, you don't have to have an engineering degree in order to be successful in this field. But in terms of the design aspect of it, everything we do is built on discovery, and everything we build is built on the input and the feedback that we get from others. So let's just start with user experience designers, for example. This role is one that's going to be thinking about the user's experience and the front end. So if, for example, I'll keep going with the Instagram example that I had earlier, there's someone who's thinking about the ins and outs of the colors, the button size, the location of buttons, the interaction patterns, how things scroll, how things look when you exit out, or just the experience overall. So in order to arrive to those designs, they have to start at the very foundation, which is talking to people. And people think that it's such a hard, it's like rocket science, but really we're building things for people. And so that's the foundation of technology. It's talking to people, it's understanding requirements, it's understanding what the needs are, and really having an opportunity to dive into that. So researchers and designers are really, they are literally driving the work we're doing, based off of, again, like that feedback and building based on the inputs that they're getting from others. So it's also kind of a psychological aspect there as well. So you're thinking about, you know, how do I take this feedback from a user and turn it into a design tenant or something that's going to be designed. And sometimes it's even, the users don't even know what they're asking for. So that's interesting sometimes to work with people who they like a certain aspect of technology. They know that they're having a specific problem, but having to like think about psychologically, the psychological aspect of it is like, what are they actually saying? Like, what do they mean by you know, this complaint they're having? So really, really important role, definitely an influencer when it comes to technology and what we're building and how we build it. And again, the product manager is kind of the person who works with all of these team members, whether it's the data scientist or the designer or the engineer. But all of them, all their respective cross-functional roles have a very, very important part in what's being built. So that is kind of just a recap of a couple of roles that you can get involved in. Now we'll talk a little bit about how. So let's go to the next slide. And I see there's a question. So before I jump into this, let me answer the question here. So what are some tools that you feel are essential for working in product marketing or management? And examples like Asana, Trello. So for this one, I truly love Jira. I know this is a taboo statement for a lot of people, but Jira has come a long way. I think the integration with Jira and Confluence, and even we use Jira Align now. So Jira Align is like a road mapping kind of visioning tool, if you will, a planning tool. And I think just the integration between all of those products and things that even down to the engineering stories, user stories, like it really helps with just like reporting and tracking and kind of building, you know, higher velocity and just things like that. That's what I use a lot. I think too, now moving into more of a product lead role, it helps me to see what my teams are working on. So if I have a team of 3 other product managers, and just I don't want to have to like ask them, hey, what are you guys working on? Like, what's your vision for the next couple of, you know, product or program increments? I can just go on their board in Jira Align or Jira and see it myself. So I really like that aspect of it too. So hopefully that helps. I've used Asana and Trello for my personal life, but not for work. So pretty much most of the companies or most of the organizations that I've seen have used Atlassian tools, which are Jira, Confluence, Jira Align, and I think I'm missing one, but I think there one more that I'm missing, but they're all in that Atlassian family. All right. So how to get started. This is something that I get questions about this a lot, and mainly from folks who either are new graduates or they're in a role they've been in for a long time and they want to transition. But how do you get started in technology? Like, how can you actually take these roles that we've learned about and your experience and put it to practice to start doing it? One is, again, the theme of this conference is identifying your passion. So I would hate for you to get into a role just for the money or the location or, you know, the title. If you're not passionate about it, it's going to come through in your job. It's going to come through in how you deliver, and it's not going to be good. And so you really want to make sure that when I say passion, it's what sparks joy for you. to nod to Marie Kondo. What sparks joy when you wake up in the morning? And I know some people are like, well, I just want to relax. I don't want to do I don't want to do work. But there has to be something that you're good at that maybe other people aren't good at, or they don't want to do, but you don't mind doing it. What's something that you feel invigorated, you're excited about, or after you finished it, you're like, man, like that, I would do that again. Or you have a smile on your face and you feel lifted after you finish that. Identifying what that is, and this doesn't have to be super deep in terms of career. It can be something that you just enjoy doing. For me, I really enjoy leading people. I really enjoy talking to people. So for me, I wanted to find a role that didn't keep me heads down in the computer all day. Well, now we're on or virtual, so I am on a computer all day. But when I mean, I didn't want to just be answering or typing emails and just like doing work all day. I wanted to have conversation with people. So that's that was important for me when I got into product management, to understand how much communication am I going to be having with people. And for me, it was a perfect fit. So identifying your passion and your interests and things that are actually giving you joy and actually making you feel lifted when you're doing those things. The next is seeking out experts and or current professionals in your desired role. This is also super important because you can't do it on your own, right? Like you always need to seek knowledge from the folks who have been doing it, from folks who have experience, from those people who've done it over and over and they failed and they got back up. This is going to be really key for your role. So experts can be anyone who's been in it for, maybe more than 5 years. Someone who's in a role that you're trying to get to, and you want to know more about the ins and outs, the actual day-to-day life, and things they don't like about it. To be honest, like you want to seek out those experts to have that really clear understanding of how that works. And then, thinking about not necessarily, when I say experts, also not necessarily like celebrities or folks who are really popular. I think there's some natural folks who do things really well, who have a big name for themselves. But you don't have to reach out to someone who, maybe may not even get back with you. Reach out to someone that you know personally. For me, it was even reaching out to people, product managers who worked alongside me or on the product that I was on. And I just wanted to learn, hey, like, what do you like about your role? So very important to start where you are, look across your network. I'm your network now. This conference is your network now. So definitely, connecting with the other ladies who were online today and yesterday. But you use your resources and try to find that real feedback. The next is get the knowledge you need. So again, kind of going back to this thread of my life, which has been education and really informing yourself. You cannot do a role well if you don't understand what it is. And I don't care if you're passionate about it. I don't care if you have a great team. But if you're not rooted and grounded in the actual work itself and understanding how to do it well, it will be difficult for you to succeed. So it's very important to get the knowledge, get the class, take the class, get the certifications. Understand, especially within technology, it's kind of hard to just pick up something as you go. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it takes a lot longer. And before you actually know the language, it's difficult. So making sure that you actually have, a foundational knowledge, an understanding of actually what we're building. For me, it was doing things like my AWS certification or user experience design. Because I wanted to know, like, my teams are in stand-up meetings every morning. They're talking about these things. They're talking about this work they're doing, but what does that mean? And so again, it kind of ties back to your passion and interest. If you're not passionate about something, if you don't truly have an interest, you're not going to want to learn about it. So when we say get the knowledge you need, it's get the knowledge you need for something you're passionate about. And again, if you're passionate about it, it won't feel like work or it won't feel mundane. It will be difficult, no kidding, but at least you'll have the foundational understanding and coming out of those experiences. And again, I kind of just talk a little bit about the AWS certification. That was one at the end of 2019. I had a goal. I had a goal in the year, but I was like, I want to get the certification before the end of the year. Like, that's my goal. I had a test that was scheduled on December 30th. Okay. And I was like, this is my goal. I really want to achieve this. December 30th is quickly approaching, and I spent most of my Christmas break, if you will, from work to actually study. And I went heads down as if I was in school. I mean, back in the college, I did study. I did practice tests. I had flashcards, and I was dedicated to passing this test. And it's not an easy test. So for me, I wanted to pass it on the first try. Some people don't do that. I mean, it's kind of difficult. But again, I had the passion. I was interested in this, and I wanted to get the knowledge. And so taking a class for that exam beforehand had really helped me, and like studying and actually doing the work. So that's kind of my story about, getting the knowledge you need and making sure that you're always, preparing yourself for the role. Updating your resume. So I spend a lot of time, not necessarily right now, but I think when you're looking for jobs, I spend a lot of time looking at the job descriptions. And that is a really pretty clear way to see what is a company looking for, what are they actually looking for in this specific role, noticing what words they use, even when they're asking for people when they're looking for people to join the company and join their role. And so updating your resume is really going to be dependent on the role you're looking for. So really, you could have a different resume for every single job you apply for. And it's important because some companies use certain words, some you'll start to see themes of what's more important to certain companies. So in Capital One, for example, we consider ourselves a technology company that happens to do banking. If you have zero technology experience, 9 out of 10, they're going to be like, not sure this is a good fit because we are a technology company. So just understanding what are the themes or what are the actual, you know, the points, the really important points for each of the companies that you're looking at. And they could be very different across the board. So when we say update your resume, it's update your resume, but also tailor your resume. It's curate your resume for the role that you want. And understanding that that's going to be different across multiple roles. It can even be different across multiple roles within the same company. So a product manager role on my team may look different from a product manager role on another team within our small business line of business. So just understanding that the differences are really important to call out. And your resume is it's speaking for you before you even get in the room. So everything matters. Every word matters, the look and feel of it, the attention to detail. If you have formatting errors, I typically don't even look at those. I'm like, you didn't take enough time to look at your resume. Why should I? So I think, updating your resume, we could go on and on about this one, but so important that you understand your resume is going to be curated for each role that you have. And do not have a general resume that you just throw out there. Like, always look at it against the job description and make sure that you're a good fit yourself based on what you're reading. All right. So the last one is just very basic. It's go for it. So how do you get started? Go for it. You have to start today. One thing that I find that people want to do is have everything all lined up, everything together, everything ready. You have everything, perfectly laid out, and then now you're going to try to get into technology. If you do that, you will be missing a lot of opportunities because this industry works very fast. So one day you might see a perfect opportunity, the next day it's already filled and they're already moving on to the next thing. You have to do it today. You have to get started today. And that includes, reaching out to people, getting your resume out there, starting to go do networking, things like this, like finding the opportunities that are out there and actually driving toward the results that you want to get to starting today. And not every day will be good. Not every day will be easy, but there's always going to be an opportunity for you to, continue going, continue pushing, and self-motivating yourself to say, okay, you know what? I might have gotten told no for that opportunity. That wasn't meant to be. Let me go back and push harder for the next thing. So really having that resilience and having an understanding of who you are and just how much you're capable of achieving. So just to recap, this one next slide. We talked a little bit about the different roles within technology. We talked about how to break into technology. I told you about myself and my journey. And really, the one thing I wanted to kind of stress for this talk specifically is that you can build your toolkit, you can break into technology, and you can thrive. It just takes dedication, it takes diligence, it takes resilience, and just understanding that you may not be an expert at something right now, but having the diligence to actually want to learn it is going to be so important. So the more you just keep your focus, keep your head straight in what you want to do, and again, find your passion. That's so important. You cannot do something for a long time if you're not passionate, because that will not sustain. It'll get you some money for a little bit. You'll be able to probably knock it out and kill it for maybe a week, not a week, but like a year or so. But after doing that for so long, it becomes mundane. So making sure that you're really, really clear on what your goals are, what you want to achieve. And then from there, you've got nothing but opportunities at your door. So thank you all for having me. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I'll hang around for a couple more minutes. But the next slide has my information on it if you would like to keep in contact. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Amber Kearney MBA. On LinkedIn at n/Amber Kearney. And then my website and blog is amberkearney.com. So I look forward to keeping contact with you all. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask them, and I will be glad to answer either here or on personal platforms as well. So there's one more question that came in from Tiara. So there are often conversations about lack of diversity in tech. Absolutely. Do you have an advice for navigating that? Have you noticed any shifts in the industry? Yeah, this is a great question, Sierra. I think so. There is obviously a huge push right now in the landscape we're living in to have more diversity in technology. As you all know, in most industries, they were impacted by the Black Lives Matter movement. They were impacted by their employees calling them out and saying, look, we don't have enough diversity, or even just the world looking at people and saying, where are the diversity and leadership roles? It's so important to me to really lean into that in technology. So for me, I've seen a spark at my company specifically around what are the metrics around recruiting and retaining people of color and African Americans specifically. I've also seen an increase in like different programs. So I literally just got added to an advisory council for diversity and technology because we're trying to do more in that space. And really it is a shift. It's a shift in the industry, but it's a shift in the world, really. It's a shift going to how can we have more, not just leadership roles, but even from a delivery standpoint, how can we have more diversity in those roles too? So I'm glad there's a shift. I'm sad that it took the killing of Black people to wake people up. But at the end of the day, like, we have to stand our ground and like actually, use this opportunity as a launching pad for what can change in the industry. So definitely a lot of things happening right now, but I'm looking forward to just using this time to keep on going. Thanks for that question, Sierra. All right. I don't see any other questions right now, but again, like, feel free to reach out to me if you guys have other questions. I am so excited to continue seeing some of the other sessions today. I think I'm going to be doing this one more time. So if you guys I think see the other session that was happening right now. So definitely enjoy that. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.